Live at 5.
Hi, folks, and good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today for this edition of KETK's Live at 5. I'm Neal Barton. Top story today, last night, President Donald Trump unleashed 59 Tomahawk missiles from the Mediterranean Sea to Syria, aimed at the same Air Force base, we're told, from which Syria attacked its own people early this week with chemical weapons. Now, these are the first direct military strikes against Syrian president during the country's 6-year civil war there. Joining us right now live in the studio to share his thoughts on what happened with this is East Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert. So, Mr. Gohmert, thank you very much for being with us.
Always good to be with you, Neal.
Now, I was really surprised with this last night because I listened to Donald Trump during the campaign season. He kept tweeting out everything else, whatever you do, don't do that, stay out of the bushes, don't do the neocon thing, the nation building. And I kept seeing Les Tillerson yesterday, and I kept thinking, this sure looks like they're up to something, but I know they're not going to do this. And then last night, they did this. So what happened?
Well, he didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the Obama administration, nor the mistakes of other administrations where, like, for example, the Carter administration, where they assisted in taking out, pushing out the leader of Iran, and then we end up with the Ayatollah Khomeini, or in Libya, where there's still chaos, where Obama helped push out Gaddafi. So, but also, of course, Obama had said red line in Syria if they use poison gas. And I think it also showed that actually the relationship between Hillary Clinton and Obama is much closer with Putin than Trump is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they, so I thought it was actually Trump best a president can be. It was our intelligence the best our intelligence can be. They get in trouble when they start trying to mess with our own elections and do things for political purposes. But in this case, they knew exactly the airfield where that poison gas was loaded. They knew exactly what planes they were loaded onto. They were Russian-made planes. And so, although Russia, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, that they didn't know there was still poison gas there. Because they said there's no poisonous gas.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
But here, it was a very measured response, because Trump still understands that McCain is nuts to say that we just need to go ahead and take out Assad. Because if we take out Assad, that gives ISIS the whole country. And so anyway, you don't want to take him out, but this was a clear message to Assad. It was a clear message to the Russians. Of course, you've been on top of this from the beginning. They gave an hour warning to the Russians. Neal, it's very telling that the Russians did not tell Syria for an hour because the response by Trump was so guarded and careful. He actually gave the Russians a chance to send a message to the Syrians. Look, we've been on your side, but if you're going to go poisoning people with gas, we're not going to be there to warn you like we could have in the last hour. So I thought it was a very measured response. It was a good response. It wasn't like, you know, Clinton taking out a couple of tents and a camel or a dog or goat or something. This was a real attack that took out real Russian-made airplanes that Assad will not be able to ever use again.
So that was surprising to me. So once again, they at least did give the Russians a little bit of a heads up, because last night, of course, all this news comes in so quickly, but last night they did give them a heads up a little bit, right?
But yes, but not enough where they could do anything effective. And like I say, that gave them a chance to send a message to Assad themselves that, look, we're your ally, but you can't lie to us like this, because they told the Russians, you know, we've gotten rid of all the poisonous gas.
This is interesting because President Obama was praised because they said he got rid of all the chemical weapons over there.
Yeah, we knew that wasn't true.
So we knew that you were always dubious of that.
We always knew that was not true. We knew there was. I have too many friends that have been over there in the region. They knew that was not true. There was still poison gas there. Now, we don't know where it came from, if they made it, or if this was some of what Saddam Hussein shipped into Syria when U.S. moved in. We don't know, but we know that it was used to poison a lot of innocent people, and that we're not going to let that go without a response.
So this is going to be like a one-and-done type thing, because, again, some folks are worrying that perhaps this could lead into something else.
That's
bigger.
A great question, because we don't – when you got two groups like ISIS and Assad, that both sides hate Americans, you don't need to get in the middle of that. And
No.
so and Trump understands that. I've talked to him about this issue.
That?
I do. You know, we've had some disagreements. I happen to think it's a bad idea to create more health care in the federal government than less. But on this, I think he is listening to wise counsel. I think it was a good, measured response. I don't think this will draw us in. It's just a message. We're not going to send boots on the ground and get between two sides that hate us.
You don't think that's
no,
going
I
to
don't.
happen? Because
but,
a lot of people
But he is
about
being
that.
smarter than Obama because he's not willing to tell people what he will do. And I told him that back in September. The best presidents are always thought to be just a little bit crazy by our foreign leaders. And if they're not sure what to expect from you, you can do much more than those they know won't jump up and do something.
When did you that this was going to happen or know this was going to happen?
Well, when most of the American public did, but I had suspected something like this, that if poison gas was used, that he would have to do something. He'd have to let them know, we're not getting in the middle of Syria war, but we will take action to keep you from poisoning people again. We'll
move on to other topics in a second. Just one more question concerning this. Where does it go from now, do you think?
Well, hopefully it means no more poison gas on innocent people. So
you think Assad will back off?
I think the message is clear. He better back off. And that's the brilliance of not telling your enemies how far you're willing to go, what you're willing to do. They understand, gosh, this Trump guy is a little bit crazy, exactly like they did with Reagan, so that it makes them back off. And as crazy as Assad may be, I don't think he's that crazy.
Now, speaking of soothsaying, you here a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned Reince Priebus.
Yeah.
And perhaps he may be gone as early as fall. I thought about you this morning when I heard another national radio talk show talking about he may be on the bubble right now.
Yeah. And that's still what we're hearing.
Is that McCarthy that may break in for that job?
I don't think so, but anyway, I see.
I'm making you very uncomfortable here, I can tell, but it looks like he may be
but I really
out.
don't know, and I don't want to try to predict who would be the next gatekeeper, because that would be very much up in the air, because he does love and listen to his daughter Ivanka, and he does love and listen to his son-in-law, who are not conservatives. They're not really that Republican. So a lot will depend on who he listens to the most for his next gatekeeper. He was trying to be diplomatic when he put Priebus into that spot, but Priebus listens too much to the establishment that did not want Trump to win, and they were going to be okay if Hillary won, to teach the populists a lesson, the Tea Party's a lesson. So anyway, I think it could be a good move, and of course Rick Perry has got put into an additional position. So I think the indications are that we're moving in a good direction.
Okay, let's talk about Neil Gorsuch today. He was confirmed, and so let's talk about that. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm thrilled that Mitch McConnell went ahead and did the right thing. Schumer was just playing politics, and I'll give you an example of just how badly his politics is. He was supportive of having a Holocaust remembrance on April 25th, but he has put a hold on having the National Day of Prayer remembrance in the rotunda. And he may be the one, he can single-handedly block that. So he is a man that doesn't mind being hypocritical. So I'm glad that McConnell stepped up, did the right thing, and now Gorsuch will be there.
Let's talk about how we got there once again, because they were saying that you have to have 60 or more people voting for that. But that's sort of isn't that sort of a Lawrence Tribe, sort of a Democratic thing that was hatched back during the Bush years about that? Like someone came up with it has to be 60 to be fair or whatever. But no one had trouble when Harry Reid did that for health care, or also for President Obama to get in most of his mid-level federal judges. Am I right or wrong?
You're exactly right. It was being used to outsmart the Republicans. So Harry Reid, thinking they were about to get the majority back, warned at the end of last year, you know what, we may just have to forget this whole cloture thing. He thought they were about to be in the majority.
We have about a minute left. So anything before you have to go back to work, being congressman?
Well, this is part of the work, too, is, let people know what's going on. But health care, we may be going back in the next week or so to vote on a bill.
It seems like it's a little bit closer. It seems like it's not quite
we're getting there.
So fractious.
They took a good idea like high-risk pools and want the federal government to control it by the suggestion of the Freedom Caucus. But he's been yes on this thing all along.
Well, you guys were saying that was you guys were supposed to come home for Easter break, and your constituents were supposed to beat up on you to get you to do that. But I heard you say on national television a few days ago, most of my constituency wants me to stand where I am. So you feel that way.
And I continue to hear from constituents, and it's about 9 or 10 to 1 to continue to do what I'm doing. So we'll see, but it's getting better. At least what they're talking about would help bring premiums down. And that's a very important thing for East Texas.
Most people are still looking for that state by state and also bringing back down the big pharma costs. Is that going to happen? Well, because the state by state competition, that's getting pulled out.
Well, it sounds like it. Hopefully it'll still be there so that we can bring pharma prices down. Big pharmaceuticals are lobbying heavy, but hopefully we'll do the right thing on that as well.
Mr. Gohmert, thank you very much for being with us.
Neal, it's always so good to be with you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay where you are. All right, coming up next in the